Tree Talking Time is brought to you by Conkey's Outdoors. Get all your hound hunting needs at conkeys.com. Welcome to Tree Talking Time, where we talk all things tree dogs, from the smallest fights to the largest hounds, treating squirrels to bears and everything in between. And from time to time, we might even run a little fast game. Need reliable housing for your animals? Animal Housing Solutions in Mayo, Florida builds custom coops, kennels, and shelters that are strong, durable, and designed with your animal's comfort in mind. Whether you need a large-scale kennel or a small custom chicken coop, they've got you covered. Quality craftsmanship, great service, and solutions built to last. That's the Animal Housing Solution promise. Check them out at Animal Housing Solutions on Facebook. Animal Housing Solutions, where your animals come first.
I'll tell you all about how I got started with the Kemmers.
Okay.
And we'll go from there. So
sounds good. Now, did you get started with Kemmers, or did you get started in some other hound or tree dog?
Well, we've had tree dogs all my life. My grandfathers, both hunted. They both squirrel hunted, coon hunted. Great grandfathers, where I come from, they always kept a tree dog around. Squirrel hunted. My uncles all enjoyed tree dogs, and I've got a few that still do. They're getting up in age and stuff. They still hunt. Still got tree dogs. One uncle, he's big time rabbit hunter. Keeps beagles. But as far as me, my dad, he really liked beagles. So when I was little, I had to slip off and hunt with somebody else to get a tree dog because I like the tree dogs. I did like I like the rabbit hunting stuff too, but something about the tree dogs just kind of, stuck me just a little bit harder than the beagles did.
Yeah.
And, but my mother's father, my grandfather, he kept rat terriers, and,
okay.
They were tree dogs, squirrel dogs, and, the rat terriers now you don't find very many that still have tree left in them. But he really liked the rat terriers, and because his dad always kept little. Well, they were known more so, I guess, as Spice back years ago, but they were just a small black dog. Most of his were black.
Okay.
So I had that background of tree dogs. But as far as with the cur dogs, I hunted with an old guy, Mr. McCaleb, back when in my teenage years that had a cur dog, and he was a really, really nice coon dog. He, even on a bad night, he'd show you coon. He put a lot of hounds to shame. So I knew that there was some other dogs out there. I always had walker dogs or black and tans through high school is what I coon hunted.
Okay.
And so, but I knew that there was other dogs out there, and we didn't have the internet. I didn't get full cry. I didn't get anything of that. So if it wasn't around here local, I really didn't know a lot about it. But I always thought that I wanted a cur dog. Well, fast forward to late '80s. I met my wife, and her father, and little did I know that how deep and how far this would carry me. But her daddy had two cur dogs.
Okay.
And that blood out of those two dogs is still in my dogs today. So
that's cool.
From the late '80s until now, there's still some of that blood in these dogs. But I met my wife, and she invited me, to go down and meet her parents. And he lived in Carlisle, Tennessee at the time. And when we went down there, he had these two old dogs running around, just yard dogs, and they kind of looked like mixed up butts, but they were, built pretty good. And I got to talking to him about them, and it was something that we had in common. And come to find out, he had cur dogs ever since, Hugh Stevens and Carl McConnell and Woody Huntsman and all of them had been collecting them back in the 60s and 70s. And
Yeah.
I've actually got pictures of my wife with an old black cur when she was 2 years old, standing in her front yard. So
That's awesome.
I didn't realize that meeting her was going to carry this this far. So,
You didn't
but
realize
anyway, I told him
your future wife was deeply embedded in the cur world.
yes, and that's all she knew. She really didn't know that they made very many other dogs. So uh, she's actually been in them way longer than I have.
That's funny.
But in talking to him, I told him, I said, if you ever have any pups, I would really like a pair of pups, because at the time I had one Walker female she was a coon dog, but if she ever came across a fox track or a deer track, your hunt was over. And me being a broke teenager, I didn't have enough money for a shot collar or anything like that. So my best bet was a good pair of tennis shoes laced up tight and cut them off and bring them back to my side.
Yeah.
And but anyway, along about Christmas, he calls me one day and he says, "Have you got a dog box?" And I said, "Yes, sir." And he said, "Well, have you got time this weekend to come to the house?" And I said, "Yes, sir." So he didn't tell me why, but I kind of had a feeling that it was something to do with a dog, because he wanted a dog box. I thought he might have had pups or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, I went down there, and the male dog that he had running around, he said, "Load old Sam up. He's yours." And I was like, "No, I can't do that. He's your dog." He said, "Well," he said, "if he don't go with you," he said, "he's going somewhere." And I said, "Okay." And that's always a bad sign in my book. If he's either going with you or he's going somewhere. But I asked him why, and he said, "Well," he said, "I'm already his third owner," and said he's come here and he's chewed everything up. I'm getting tired of going out on the front porch in the morning time and tripping over snakes. And he said this morning he laid the third copperhead on my front porch. And he said, "I'm too old to be getting scared like that." So I took old Sam home, and come to find out, old Sam had belonged to Loretta Lynn.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
A good friend of mine had sold him to Loretta's husband, and he got down there, same thing. He chewed everything up, just being a puppy, so to speak. And anyway, he went back to the guy that bought him, or that sold him, and he gave him to his brother. And then my father-in-law contacted the guy about getting a cur dog, and he said, "Well, I've got one. It's down at my brother's house." And so my father-in-law went up there, and he ended up buying him. And then, of course, he chewed everything up at my father-in-law's house, so I ended up with him. That turned out to be probably the best cur dog that I have walked behind to date.
Spoiled you right from the get-go.
Yes, and I've been chasing that ever since.
Yeah.
I got him, I said, at Christmas, and he had never been hunted. My father-in-law said, all he'd done is, chase deer, run rabbits, and kill snakes. And, and he would find them. I mean, he'd dig. He hated the snake. He would dig in the barn. He would, like I say, I got him in December. So, he found one somewhere.
Yeah.
And brought it up there, But anyway, I got him in December, and the very last day of season in Tennessee was February 28th at that time. And that morning, I shot out a Tennessee limited squirrels, and carried him that night and treed 2 coons.
Pretty good. How old was he?
So at that time, he was 13 months old.
Oh, okay.
And so, he was, like I said, by far the best that I've walked behind yet.
Mm-hmm.
And in doing that, I'm kind of like Forrest Gump. I'm not a smart man, but I knew enough that hey, if this one was doing this, maybe I need to find the guy that bred this dog,
Yeah.
and see if I can get some more. And so I did. That happened to be Jerry Lane down in Dixon, Tennessee. A lot of people know him as Bronco. In my book, he's a super dog man. He took me in a couple years before I did it, but I went down and I bought a half sister to the Sam dog,
Mm-hmm.
and through the years, me and Jerry became pretty good friends, and I hunted dogs for Jerry for years. He gave me dogs, and I'd hunt them till I get them going. I'd carry them back. I worked midnights at the time, so I could I could hunt every day.
Yeah.
And so when I got the Sam dog, there wasn't really a Kemmer association.
Mm-hmm.
So everything that I had back then was OMCBA registered.
Yeah. Out of curiosity, how was Sam bred?
Sam was basically some old busher stock out of Tennessee, or Bronner's Blackie. And another thing that I didn't realize was Sam's mother came from, or grandmother came from right over here, just about 4 miles from me. A dog named Spencer Creek Punky, which she was busher / Kemmer bred, and Tony Wheatloff, he had carried her up to Wayne Bronner's and bred her to Bronner's Blackie, which is more of what most people today call busher stock.
Okay.
Which busher stock has now become pretty much a generic term for anything that's not street bred or Kemmer bred.
Pretty much.
Yeah. So, but looking at Sam's papers, his mother was a full blooded Kemmer,
Mm-hmm.
which was out of Blondie 4 and let me back up. Out of a dog called Coon Hill Tarzan and an old female we call Barbie, which was Blondie 4 and Target.
Okay.
Which Jerry had got those dogs straight from Robert. We progressed on, around here, me and my wife, with those dogs working back and forth with Jerry. And one dog that I just happened to, fall into, I told you earlier, talking about happy accident, an old dog was called Big Sally.
Okay.
Well, I won world hunts. I won NKC hunts, over 100 dogs, won OMCBA, cast, OMCBA hunts, both ways. But she was actually, just about a cull when I got her, and she turned out to be one of those that was just way above average. And her dad, we called him Hammer. He was a 3/4 gold nugget dog.
Mm-hmm.
And I tried everything in the world. I ended up with him at the house and hunted him and done. And he was just, well, I hate to say it, but he was worthless. I mean, as far as a tree dog,
yeah.
he had more interest in messing with other dogs to the tree than he did treeing. And he got in and bred the Sally dog's mama, that we called Lou, and pretty much because of as sorry as old Hammer was, nobody wanted pups out of a sorry dog, and old Lou. But
yeah,
out of that litter, there was 2 world champion squirrel dogs and a world reserve night champion, and one more that went to Louisiana that was better than all the rest of them, but he never was putting a competition on it. And,
what's crazy is I've heard that from multiple people that it's typically more females,
mm-hmm.
Some brood female that gets bred that has never seen a coon or squirrel or whatever, and is throwing these world champion pups, and it's just like, I don't know, genetics boggles my mind in that way, because it's like then you have good females that don't reproduce at all.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just crazy sometimes how how the genetics work and how they line up and like that.
Well, you should, like an old friend of mine used to say. He said, "How many times can you reach into a deck of cards and pull out the same cards each time?" So those genes and stuff are in there.
Yeah.
They may be subdued, they may be pushed down or whatever, but they're in there.
Mm-hmm.
Now saying that, I don't like to breed on the brood chips. I want to see what they're doing. I think that increases my chances of, getting the dog that I want, because you can't take a Black Angus and make it a milk cow,
No, I completely agree. I'm not going to breed something that's not something I would want to have another one of.
Mm-hmm. And I've been blessed in these dogs to be tutored or mentored or whatever you want to call it by some really great dog men. Robert Kemmer, I still consider him a really good friend.
Mm-hmm.
Even Carl Smith. I mean, he grew up in the same neck of the woods that I did. Went to school with my aunts and uncles, and so
okay.
Even before I knew much about cur dogs and stuff, I had went with my uncle to his place to breed a red bone hound to a cur dog.
Mm-hmm.
So Robert Kemmer, Carl Smith, the Huntsmans, Peanut Beatty, from way back, they gave me direction and
you've known all of them.
Dogs.
You've known all the greats.
I guess I'm dating myself on some of that. But,
well, hang on one second. Let's why don't you introduce yourself so that way people know who you are moving forward.
All right. Well, I'm Chris Boone, Lebanon, Tennessee, and just one of these old Kemmer dog fanciers, I guess you'd say.
Yeah. And for the listeners of the podcast, your name got brought up back in, I think, December, because Jared and Melissa Harrelson, they got a pair of pups from you.
Yes, sir.
So your name was brought up in that episode, and they were singing your praises because their pups are, at that point, I think, 9 or 10 months old, something like that. And we're putting the pieces together and starting to tree, and maybe not doing it all by themselves, but we're doing pretty good.
Well, I told you before that I don't listen to a whole lot of podcasts, but I did listen to that one because I got word that they were going to be on there, and I thought, well, I'll see how the dogs were doing, and I think you're right. I think they were about 8 or 9 months old or something like that.
Yep.
And they, as a matter of fact, they came down here to pick up one dog, and they looked, and I had a little light brindle female.
She is sharp. I would take that female off their hands in a heartbeat.
Well, I was going to keep her, and because she was really nice, and I got to thinking about it because I didn't think we were going to have a lot of game this year, and it turned out we didn't. And I'm glad that they went ahead and got her because I couldn't have done her justice this year. Our game numbers is way down in my area. Late frost and poor mass crop really hurt it. So there again, that's that fate I was talking about. Happy things come, through things like that. And she went out there, so it was the best thing for her.
Mm-hmm. But sorry I interrupted you. You were talking about how you were mentored by a bunch of the greats of the original Mountain Cur Breeders Association.
Yes, sir. The very first time that I went to an OMCBA hunt, it was at the old Lake Francis, I believe it was, and I got carried up there. And fast forward, the first one that I actually participated in was over at the clubhouse they have now, Jamestown, and I was always one of those kids that I'd go ask questions. If you had something that I wanted to know, I mean, I'd go ask, and then I'd sit there and listen. And I became pretty good friends with Laddie Huntsman. He kind of introduced me around to a lot of people. And, I'd sit and I'd listen to the stories and listen to the things that they had to say and try to, filter through you know, the lies and the BS and get what I could out of it. And because, sitting up at the clubhouse and at 1 o'clock in the morning waiting for the coon cats to come in, you hear everything.
Yep.
So, but yes, I was really blessed. And another thing is I was blessed to know and have some really good family that are, Angus cattle breeders, and I learned a lot about genetics, with through other animals. And it's same thing still applies to the dogs that applies to the cattle.
Yeah, and I've heard that other places as well.
Well, and there's a guy that I know that's around here. He's a landscaper. He's from Guatemala, and doesn't speak a whole lot of English. But down there, they with their game chickens.
Yeah,
man. I mean, he is a wealth of knowledge. If I could understand everything he said, I'm sure I'd pick up a lot more. But his insight into breeding is unreal. Yeah, that carry over from different animals and stuff into the breeding world is really helped me.
Mm-hmm.
Like I was saying with those dogs that I got from my daddy-in-law, it's those genes are still there from in my dogs today.
Yeah,
and I was also lucky enough to have some really good friends that helped me, because one person can't keep a line of dogs going.
Oh no.
And one early on, I got a phone call one night from a guy. I didn't have a clue who he was, but his name was Roger Bennett, and Roger is a really, really good dog person. He had no saying, you got to be smarter than the dog, to get anything out of them. And, they kind of nicknamed him the professor and stuff like that. But Roger and I have been friends just about as long as I've been in cur dog world.
Okay.
Matter of fact, he came and bought his second dog from me and Jerry Lane. More so Jerry Lane than me at that time, but an old dog called Warrior. And Roger and I worked back and forth for years with dogs, and he kind of created, with the traits that he liked and everything, a line of dogs that, for the most part, were referred to as meat dogs.
Yep.
And
we were talking before we started recording about them old forums and squirrel haters. I remember that he always referred to his dogs as meat dogs.
And they were, because he wasn't out for competition hunts. He wasn't, although he and I traveled all over the southeast United States, and hunting and going and visiting people and stuff. Made a lot of friends riding right side by side with him. But he wasn't interested in competition hunts. All he wanted was a good dog.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna tell you that man has raised some really, really good dogs. He was just one acquaintance or friend or whatever that helped me through the years. There's been a lot of, too many really to name.
Yeah.
That have got 2 or 3 dogs, and when I got short of something that, or a trait that I needed, they would have, and I could call it back. And it's really helped with the dogs that I've got now to be able to do that. I'll probably give away more dogs than I've ever sold.
Yeah.
And because I wanted to get them into hunters' hands and, be able to pull them back in when I needed them. A few more, a couple I'm working with, now, Dwight Anderson.
Yeah.
He's got some dogs for me and to help him keep alive what he had in his old stock stuff, and it's working great.
Mm-hmm. No, I
These
mean,
guys say that they do it all themselves. I could never do it.
no, I mean the only people that I've seen do it by themselves are people, and you don't see people like this anymore. And I'm not throwing anybody under the bus, but they're people that had 40, 50 dogs, which you just don't see that today. You know,
Mm-hmm.
guys, and I'm not, like I said, I'm not trying to throw anybody under the bus, but like Robert Kemmer, at one point,
Mm-hmm.
from all accounts I've ever heard, and I don't think I asked him when I talked to him, but he had like 50 dogs on his place at one point, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and that's the only way you're going to be able, you can do that by yourself. Otherwise, one person just can't generate enough puppies to keep a progression going and keep it
Mm-hmm.
a wide enough gene pool. So,
Well, even with Robert, and you know, I've sent dogs back to Robert.
mm,
There's a lot of Robert sent dogs all over the country
yeah,
to different people, and he's even had help with getting them out and getting them hunted and bringing them back in and to
yeah,
diversify the bloodline enough that they don't go stale.
yeah,
I know some people that have claimed to do it, but there's no way that you can hunt that many dogs and do them justice.
yep.
And in my book,
Nope,
um,
I agree. It takes a lot to actually develop a line, promote it, that it can then be, I don't know, known well enough that to sell pups and get pups into the hands of hunters. And yeah, you can sell some random puppies, but in order to keep it going and everything, you kind of have to, I don't know, be known somewhat
mm-hmm.
in the
Well,
community of the breed or whatever that you're hunting. So
I've watched it, time and time again. Joe Blow down the road has got some really good bred puppies,
yeah,
but he can't give them away
yeah,
just because nobody knows him.
mm-hmm.
And then I've seen people that have a name built up, and here they are. They're getting twice the going rate for a puppy.
Yeah,
And people don't ask what they're out of, ask anything about it. They just want to know. They just know that they want to get a puppy from that person.
yep,
But I tell you something interesting, like with Robert Kemmer. Back years ago, one of the first hunts I was at Jamestown, I saw Robert come in with a load of puppies. I think Jamestown. I don't remember if he was there or at Lake Prince. Anyway, he come in with a load of puppies, and he was breeding some really good dogs back then. And not that he's not now. I'm just saying that at that time, it was everybody wanted a puppy from Robert Kemmer. And
yeah,
when Cur Dog puppies were going for $50 and $100 a piece, $500 wouldn't have bought one off of that truck when he pulled in. Uh, you know, it's and a lot of it was, he had a name built up of having good dogs.
yeah,
I don't advertise. I don't raise enough dogs to keep puppies all the time, because that's not what I want to do. I want to hunt. I want to raise a good dog.
yeah,
And I want to prove them myself. I don't want to, even though I have to, because I can't hunt them all. But I want to see what I'm doing, because that's where I get the enjoyment of the dogs is raising them up myself and seeing what they do.
yeah.
And
Conkeys Outdoors is proud to be a sponsor of Tree Talking Time. Family, hunting, tradition is the Conkeys motto. They understand the importance of passing down the tradition of hound hunting. They are a family-owned business that treats you like family. They also understand the importance of having the gear you need when you need it. Conkeys carries everything for your next hunt, and it ships to your door quick. They also offer great warranties on all tracking systems and financing options. Check them out at conkeys.com. You can also use the code TreeTalkingTime5 in all caps to save as well. Where has your breeding program, from where you started to where you are today, kind of, where are you at now? How are your dogs? Yeah, you said that your dogs still go back to those original dogs, but have you kept it really tight on those old dogs, or have you kind of branched out a little bit here and there? And what have you brought in? And
well, basically, they're a lot the same, a little bit different. And I'll kind of explain that. Uh, I wanted to keep the same traits, and I'll tell it on myself. Back several years ago, man, I got to noticing that my percentage of dogs that were making it was not where I wanted it to be.
Mm-hmm.
I was still producing some good dogs, but I just didn't. I wasn't seeing what I wanted, and I think a lot of that was because I was keeping stuff so tight.
Yeah.
And I won't say like inbreeding, but really close family breeding.
Yeah.
And a breeding that really kind of made me see something needed to be done after this was a good friend of mine, Todd Gibson, down in Alabama. He had actually come up here to breed to an old dog I had that's called Chief. And Chief went straight back to the old Spring Creek buck stuff that I'd started with, pretty straight down the line. But Chief apparently went sterile on me. So first time he brought his female up here, she didn't have any pups. He come back. He said, "Man, I'd really like to try her again." And I said, "Well, come on back." And he got up here, and she wasn't hardly ready to stand at the time. And he got to looking at an old dog I had here called Cowboy. And Todd said, "Well, why don't we just breed old Belle to Cowboy?" He said, "I've always liked that old dog." Well, let's do it. And from there, that little bit of an outcross, which they were still in the Kemmer, still close to the same ancestors, that little bit of an outcross really turned things up a notch.
Mm-hmm.
And, I saw that, and man, one of the results is like the dogs that the Harrelsons has got, the pup that everybody's so fond of Jeremy Garner's down there. The honey pup is a descendant of that cross and everything. So it seemed like it stepped it up a notch. So yes, I kept things the same because I like those traits, but a little bit different when I made that one outcross. Now that's not to say that through the years that I've not tried other things that didn't work out, that I just don't tell nobody. I'm not a real public person when it comes to stuff like that, so I don't advertise my business. So if it don't work out, I know it. Nobody else will ever find out. It's just, and we go the direction that works. That's where I go.
Well, I need one of those miracle pups like Honey.
Well, there's probably going to be some in the works. So, as a matter of fact, the guy that Jeremy got that miracle pup from, he brought a female up here to my house to breed today. So,
nice. Well, for the listeners that might not know about Honey, she's what, 5, 6 months old?
Yes, something like that. She's
stupid young,
and
been treeing squirrels since she was like 3, 4 months old in his starting pen. He has been shooting squirrels, coon, heck, even treat a bobcat with her. Like I said, she's 6 months old.
Mm-hmm. And
so, now,
kind of a little.
He hunts the hair off
he
that
hunts her.
dog.
Yes, and that's what it takes. If you can have all the built-in ability, but if you don't exercise that, it's not going to come out.
Yeah.
And, but there's a kind of a little joke with that. I actually went and met another friend of Jeremy's to pick that pup up and bring her to the house so that he could get her.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, "Man, you're going to have her treeing before I come get her." I said, "You know it. She'll be treeing when you get her." And so he took her back, and then he was messaging me just a few days later, like, "Man, this dog, she's fixing a tree in a pen." I said, "Well, man, you told me you wanted a tree before you got her." So, of course, she was only here about maybe, let's see, I think she was overnight, so she was less than 24 hours at the house. So I really can't take credit for it. But and when Jeremy came to get her, she was. We went to looking for her. My wife had brought her in, and she went to sleep under the Christmas tree. So
that's funny.
But yeah, that's something else. With these dogs, no matter what you've got, so you can have the best genes, the best breeding, the best crossover was. If you don't put them in the woods, you'll never realize what they can do.
Exactly.
And
I'm sure there's been a world champion behind someone's tied out behind someone's house at some point in time that it would have been if it would have got hunted. But when you don't hunt it, you don't know.
Well, I'll tell you what. I'll tell you another story. A lot of people, like I said, with Roger Bennett. Roger came up here, and we were partners on a dog or two and everything. And I had a little black pup out here. And man, Roger was walking out there to look at something else at the house, and this little pup's fighting on his ankles and everything. And Roger says, "Will you take that pup? I want to buy that pup." "Right, the pup ain't for sale, man." I said, "She's just, she is what she is." I said, I like her. He said, "Man, I want that pup. What do you take for him?" And skip forward through the details anyway. Roger ended up carrying that pup home. And that turned out to be the Spook pup. And man, she turned out to be a really, really better than average dog in the day and at night both. And she really produced as good as she was, if not a little better. And we saw that in her. And I went to looking and trying to find some of those litter mates back. Yeah. And I found one that the guy had. And he said, "Man, I wish you would come and get this dog." He said, "He don't ever shut up. And, man, I think he's crazy." And I'll go get him. It's worth a shot.
Yeah.
And, so I go get him, and I get there, and he's wormy. He's skinny. He just looks like he's, like he needs a new home. And so I get him. I take him home, throw the wormer to him, throw the feed to him. Man, he gets up. He looks good. And I called Roger, and I said, "Hey, Roger, this is what I got. What do you think?" He said, "Well, man, it's worth a try." So I carried him to Roger. And, the dog's up. So I don't remember. He might have been a couple years old, maybe.
Yeah.
And Roger gets him down there. He calls me back in a few days. He said, "Man," he said, "I don't know what I can do with him." He said, "This dog is as gun shy as I have ever seen." And I said, no kidding. I said, "Well, maybe we just wasted a trip." And of course, the dog had never been off the chain. He had never been anything done with him. He was just a yard dog on a chain, and didn't know anything. Didn't know to come. Didn't know to, didn't even know his name. And when I asked the guy what his name was, he said, "Well, I can't say it on here, but what he been calling him." But he, needless to say, we gave him the name Chief. And fast forward about 6 months, Roger said, "Come down and hunt with him." And I went down and hunt with him, and I was amazed.
Yeah.
He was nice, and that was long about the time that Roger and I were, taking some trips down south together to squirrel hunt and stuff. And we carried him to Arkansas and hunted with some good friends of ours down there. And that dude showed out, and I was like, man. And I'd made the deal with Roger, how you keep him as long as you want him. I just want him to be hunted, because I said, I had other stuff that I was doing. And Roger had got some more dogs and stuff going, young dogs and stuff. And I got the chance to get him back about 7.5 or 8 years old. And I'm going to tell you what, I love that dog about as much as I loved any of them I've had. He was consistent day or night. But moral of the story is, he was in the backyard on that guy's chain,
Yep.
They've never done anything to him. All that was in him, it just wasn't brought out.
Exactly. Also, it kind of gives people a little bit of hope that sometimes there's pups that nobody mess with, and dog's 2 years old, 3 years old, and
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't mean that they can't make a dog. It might take a little extra time, but because like you said, if it's in there, so.
Well, the internet has really done a disservice to the dogs,
Mm-hmm.
in my opinion, because, and I'm gonna jab at Jeremy here, but Jeremy's a squeaky wheel. I mean, he's the guy that he posts on social media. He's there and he's telling the details, and he's showing the honey pups.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of new people see that and think, man, this is simple. All I got to do is give me one, and then in 6 months, if I get one from Joe Blow, in 6 months I'll have a squirrel dog.
Yeah.
And that, is not always there. I'll go back to what the Bama dog that he's hunted that's doing so well.
Mm-hmm.
When Ronnie Wooten called me about the dog and everything, he said, man, he just laid around out there and wouldn't do nothing, for a long time. And he said, I didn't know whether he was going to come on or not. But then all of a sudden he started making something, so there's 2 dogs that have really, made a showing on the internet.
Yeah.
And both of them are different. The Bama dog was slower starting, but he's turned into a really good, dog at night. And then there's the honey dog that, just right out of the gate is making a good dog. So, every dog's different.
Exactly. And I think that's what separates men with dogs and dogmen. Dogmen know how to bring out the best in every dog and be able to work with it, regardless of which pup they get.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and that's Roger Bennett. I'm bragging on him because he deserves every bit of it. But he is a dog man. He can bring that out of them. I'm the guy that I've got to have a natural. If it's not a natural, I'm not the guy to train one to tree.
Yeah.
Roger Bennett can coax it out of any of them. I mean, he's that guy. And like you said, that separates the two. And I the dog world is full of both. And there's a place for both. In the dog world, there's people that they could care less whether they watch a dog develop from a puppy and all that. They just want to go hunting.
Yep.
Or go and win a competition hunt. And that's good. We need them.
Yep. I know a lot of Rogers dogs were black or brindle, and but obviously this honey pup Jeremy's got some of your blood. It's yellow. Do you tend to have more yellow dogs, or do you have more brindle dogs?
Depends on what year it is. Last year when the Harrelsons got their dog, I bred 3 females to a dog that I've got. It's we call him Clyde, and Clyde's a big brindle dog. And this year it seems that I've had it in my mind. I've got got two young yellow males that I bred 3 females to.
Okay.
So this year it'll be mainly yellow dogs. Last year there was a lot of brindle and black dogs.
Okay.
But now the honey dog, she comes out of one of her grandmother was Black Betty, so even in those litters, she's out of some black brindle stock. So
okay,
that's what I always kidded Dwight Anderson and Jeremy Garner about. Dwight's hunting the yellow dog, and they always like these brindle dogs and black dogs, and and that kind of stuff. And I told them, you're letting these yellow dogs go, and they're going to make you, make you the best one. So they're Dwight and Dwayne Anderson both hunting yellow dogs, and Jeremy Garner's got a whole kennel full, and so.
Now, a few months ago, right before he got Bama, he's like, "I'm going to albino brindles."
But as far as my dogs goes, it's whatever I've got on my brain at the time. Whether if this female, if I think she's going to cross better with the male that I've got that's brindle, that I'll have brindle pups.
Mm-hmm.
So
no, I was just curious. And are your dogs? You said they're Kemmers, so I'm guessing they're Kemmer Stock Breeders Association registered. But are they still OMCBA registered?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I spent a lot of money back several years ago because, like I said, the dogs some of the dogs that I started with, this was before there was a Kemmer Association.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of those dogs weren't Kemmer registered, and at one time years ago, if you would pay the back registrations on dogs, and you had a Kemmer that didn't have OMCBA papers, you could pay those back registrations and register them with the Kemmer or with the OMCBA association. And so, the Kemmer Association was pretty new at the time. I felt like it was going to stay around, but I also, looked at it as the opportunity to go either way, wherever life took me, if I keep them, and in that way, I couldn't go wrong. And so like I said, I spent a lot of money keeping them that way.
I think it's smart, and I think you're probably one of few people that probably still has dual registered dogs.
Yeah, there's quite a few little pockets out there of them, but but they go for the most part, they go back to either Jake Lou stuff and Gene Montgomery down in Alabama. He's got a lot of that stuff.
Yeah.
And he's kept his dual registered. And another one is Kenny Guider up in East Tennessee. He's kept his dual registered. And Kenny's another one too that I've worked back and forth with. He's got a lot of dogs from me and everything. Matter of fact, the Clyde dog that I spoke of, Kenny had got a dog from the Cowboy of Bellcross, Todd Gibson, and me. Yeah. And then he called me and he was looking for a black dog, and I sent him a black dog, male dog called Driver, and that's where my Clyde dog came from. So he's one of the friends that helped me out through the years of being able to get stuff back. So I got the Clyde dog back from him and everything. So
nice. I really would like to try a Kemmer. Only Kemmer I've ever hunted with, he was dog aggressive, but at the same point, a dog jockey had him. I guess his owner had passed away. That's the only Kemmer dog I've ever hunted, but I like what I've seen of them, and I would definitely like to try one at some point.
Well, the Kemmers are just like any other breed of dogs. I mean, there's good ones and bad ones.
Oh yeah.
And this line may not suit you, for anything. And the other line over here might be like, man, that's the greatest dog I've ever seen. And I know, like up here where I hunt a lot, I really, really hate for a dog to be one of those straight line dogs. I want him to hunt, bird dog style, because these hills up here, and they'll kill you. You get one that trees 4 ridges over, and you flatten that out, and you're like 2 miles, to get over to it. And so, but there's other lines that that hunt that way. So they'll just, like I said, they're just like any other dogs. There's good ones and bad ones and different traits and everything. Because here again, another Forrest Gump reference. They're like a box of chocolates. Everybody doesn't like the same thing, so they bred them in the way that they wanted.
Yep. Well, I think that's no matter what breed you're in. I mean, you're going to find that. even in walkers, you're going to find walkers that aren't straight line dogs, but granted, that's
Mm-hmm.
what most of them are, but not all of them. So, for people to listen, how other than bird dogging it, how describe your dogs and how they hunt otherwise as well.
I want a dog that hunts for me. I want him to circle back.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, I don't want a straight line dog. I want him to hunt as deep as he needs to go, whether it be 100 yards, 200 yards, 300 yards, and I tend to like my dogs to hunt a little deeper because I can always take that out. I can't put it in them. If they don't have it in them, I can't make them go.
Yeah.
I want them to hunt bird dogs, bird dog style. And I want them to hunt on a pretty fast pace. I don't want one that's just running wide open. I think they tend to miss some things, but I do want them to cover ground pretty quick. A dog that stays under my feet, I've got no use for, and I don't want one that's got to pee on every tree and kick grass and all that stuff and scratch and roll and do. I want him to leave out with something on his mind, like he's on a mission, and everything. So that's pretty much it. I can handle the different mouths, the different stuff. That's I want the ability and the brains.
Mm-hmm.
I want him to hunt smart. I don't want one that always stays up on a ridge or always hits a creek. I want them to use their brain and go, hunt into the wind and work the wind. I want them to be able to use their brain.
Yeah. What kind of mouth do your dogs have?
I tend to get two different kinds. There'll be, for the most part, the biggest majority of mine will be a semi-open to silent type of dog,
mm-hmm.
At night, with a top on track and a usually a long locate, not really, sometimes not a ball, but a semi ball, and then change over to a chop. There are some dogs that I get, out of mine that will have a chop on track and then change over to a ball, and some that'll be just basically and I really don't call it a ball so much. I mean, a lot of people do, and that's what they refer to it as, but it's not like an old blue tick hound on a cold, winter track.
Yeah.
Ball. It's more of a squall mouth than a true ball mouth.
Okay. Yeah.
And I get some of those. That Bama dog, he's kind of got that kind of mouth. It's not really a ball, but it's not. It's I guess I call it a squall mouth.
Yeah. And, I got squall mouth dogs. I'm well aware what a squall mouth is.
But for the most part, I'm just about deaf. I can hear thunder, but it's got to be awful close. I've worked almost 40 years in in industrial / construction settings, and my hearing sucks. And so I've got to have a loudmouth dog.
Okay.
Either that or I've got to have my son or daughter with me, because if they get very far in their weak mouth, I can't hear.
Yeah.
So thank goodness for Garmin. So
definitely. Well, you got any more good hunting stories for us?
Well, trying to think. I've been on some really good hunts and stuff and everything. And I mentioned back earlier in our discussion that I used to go down to southeast Arkansas and stuff, and hunt with some good friends of mine down there. And I sold a dog to a guy down there back. It was along about 05 or something. And the guy's name is Shane Skinder, and me and Shane kind of hit it off. There's certain people in the world that when you meet them, you like them. And Shane was one of those guys that, man, me and him hit it off. him and his wife came up and got the dog, and when he stepped out of the truck, I mean, I knew he was going to be a friend for a while. And man, we didn't have any squirrels that year. And he invited me to come down and hunt with him. And I had a good friend of mine that I worked with at the time, Brad Askew, and old Brad. He had his first dogs, first squirrel dogs. You know, he was new to it. He was really gung ho, and I called him, asked if he wanted to go with me. He said, "Yeah, man, I'd love to go." So we rolled all the way down to Southeast, Hamburg, Arkansas, with stay with old Shane, and Shane hits me with it when I get down there. He says, "Hey man, what do you think about a buddy of mine coming along and filming?" I said, "Man, I don't know. I don't know about this." And he said, "Oh man, he's a good old boy." He said he won't even bring a dog. Oh, he'll just come and go with us. I said, "Well, man, I guess it'd be all right." So we roll in, and come to find out it was Todd Hickman, the one that did all the Squirrel Dog Fever videos back then.
Okay.
And so we roll in, and man, Todd was another one. Me and Todd hit it off, and I used to talk to Todd quite a bit. He was kind of slacked off as we got older, but he's another guy that I just knew I was going to be friends with. They opened their houses up and invited me in, and introduced me to a lot of people down there. But we got down there, and me and old Brad Askew, we hunted with them, and I don't remember how many hundred squirrels we killed the 4 days that I was down there, but it really really blessed me with a lot of good friends and everything. And after he got the footage, Todd told me, he said, "Man," he said, "this is really good footage." And Todd and his buddy had been dabbling in making some videos and stuff. He said, "Man, I want to make a video with this." He sent me the footage, and I looked at it. Man, that is good. That, a lot better than what you're seeing, on the outdoor channel. Well, on the outdoor shows and stuff. Outdoor channel where I didn't have it at the time. It may have been there, but and so he edited it up, and what turned out to be just a few days getting away with some buddies turned into overnight everybody in the country knowing who you were and knowing who Big Sally was and Cowboy and Queenie and everything, and like I said, really introduced me to a lot of people, a lot of dog people.
Put you on the map.
And I tell you, with these dogs, something that did that video and everything is, I had people that weren't even interested in squirrel dogs asking about these Kemmers, and after that, I sent dogs, a couple of dogs overseas to be search for human remains, man dogs.
Yeah.
I sent dogs for of course, for hog dogs. I sent dogs for deer tracking dogs, hunt shed antlers. A friend of mine up here in town had saw one of the videos, and he said he would like to try one as a drug dog, because to take it into more places like schools and around stuff like that, it wouldn't be as intimidating as a German Shepherd or something like that,
Yeah.
And so it opened that up that got these Kemmers in a lot of places that they normally wouldn't be.
Mm-hmm.
And
that's pretty cool.
I'll tell you one more about an interesting story with old Shane Skinner down there. I love to hog hunt. We don't have a lot of hogs here, so when I go down there, I always try to make a hog hunt.
Okay.
And we were staying at Shane's house, and that February, some of the worst tornadoes that had hit that area in a long time come through. And we got up that morning, and it was coming, just downpours. And this hunt, Roger Bennett was with me. And I asked Roger, I said, because we were supposed to go hog hunting that morning. I said, Roger, you going? He said, no, I'm staying in. I ain't getting out of here. I said, okay. So Shane was there, and I asked Shane, I said, you going? He said, man, he said, I tell you what, you go, you kill all you can kill, you bring them back here and I'll skin them. I said, all right. And I found one person as dumb as I was to hit the woods, and we hit it. And we ended up, we got to hunt probably maybe 3 hours, 3 or 4 hours, something like that. Long story short, we ended up killing three good sized hogs. And on the way back, we're coming through, I believe it's Monticello, Arkansas, and the tornado sirens going off. We didn't have a clue. We're out there hog hunting and killing hogs, having a big time, and there's tornadoes tearing up Dumas, Arkansas, like everything. And of course, where we were at, no cell phones and nothing. And guys back at Shane's house were like, "Man, we didn't know where y'all were, if y'all were okay or whatever."
Yeah.
And we roll in, and of course there's Shane. He said, "Glad to see y'all back and everything." I handed him a knife and said, "Hey man, you need to go on back out there and get this skinny because we got to head back to Tennessee today." So yeah, but
now you hog hunt your squirrel and coon dogs, or?
Yes, sir. I don't get to hog hunt near as much as I want to.
Mm-hmm.
But when I go, I always throw 1 or 2 of my dogs in because like I said before, it's more to me about the dogs. And if I've got a dog in the race, whether even if he's lagging 100 yards behind, if he's in the race, I'm having fun.
Oh yeah, no, I get it. I throw my dogs in on bear races, so I get it.
Mm-hmm. And hey, I got some good friends over in the mountains of North Carolina and Tennessee, and when I go over there to bear hunt with them, which I've not got to do yet, but when I go, you can bet that I'm gonna say, "Hey guys, let me throw this young dog in there just so that I've got some Annie in the pot."
Yep.
And
well, whenever you finally do, guess what? You'll be ruined.
If it's very much more exciting than the hog hunt, I've always said if we had hogs around here thick as they do in other places, I probably wouldn't small game hunt. I'd probably be a hog.
If I had bears here, I wouldn't coon hunt.
Mm.
There's just a difference in running something that's a little bigger, something a little more dangerous. That the adrenaline just gets to pumping a little more.
Mhm. Mhm. I've got a lot of friends that bear hunt, and they've for the most part told me the same thing. Man, you don't need another hobby. Don't go. Don't
exactly.
go.
I went one time. I killed a bear. My wife's like, "Good, you're done." I'm like, "Nah," and I've been back every year since.
No, it's a disorder, as my wife says sometimes.
Yep.
And but in saying this right here, there's something that I would like to add. I listened to a podcast the other day, and like I said, I'm just now getting to where I'm listening to some of them. And listening to like Jeremy Garner, and I keep going back to him. Yeah. He's hard to get out of your head. He's just
well,
he is.
I'll throw a little shout out to old Jeremy Garner because he's the one that told me that I needed to talk to you. So,
well, I'll blame it on him then. And but he was telling a story about about his wife and kids and everything, and that's one thing that. Those saying behind every good man is a good woman.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how good I am, but I do know that I've got a really good wife. Behind me. She supported me in all my adventures and in the late nights and the all day trips and the out of state and the going and all the money that I've spent. And she's the one that goes and picks up $300-400 worth of dog food every few weeks, and and everything. And without her, I couldn't do what I do.
Yeah.
And so I really want to thank her.
Yep.
I don't know if she'll ever listen to this, but if she does, she'll get here.
There you go. And one thing you mentioned, Jeremy telling his story, and just so the listeners, if you haven't checked out Coon Hunting Confidentials on the Houndstooth Podcast Network with Jeremy Garner, you definitely need to. It's really not that much hunting related. Jeremy lived through a horrendous incident a couple years ago. A tornado hit his house with him and his family inside of it, and he tells that story, and it's just, it gave me chills listening to it, just everything he went through, and it's just a great story of how they overcame it. So like I said, it's really not that much hunting related, but it's a great story, and so if you haven't listened to that already, I would definitely recommend you go check that out.
And it gives you a new perspective of, you can watch this stuff on TV all you want to, but until you hear it that in depth and everything, there's some moments in there that cause my throat to get a little thick. And thinking about with my kids, and I've got two new grandkids that listen. Well, one just turned 6 months old, and the other one's just born first of February. And thinking about that happening to them, that's just it's a new perspective, and people ought to check it out because it's a good listen.
Yeah, like I commented, he put some pictures up on Facebook of it, and I remember seeing him a couple years ago. I mean, I was aware of who Jeremy was. I mean, I'd never really talked to him or anything. To see the pictures, it's like, man, that's awful that your house got destroyed. But then you listen to him and telling you how it all happened, and I don't want to spoil it for people that haven't listened to it, but he literally got thrown from his house and then had to crawl back in to find his family. So, it's just crazy, and so we'll leave it at that and just tell you got to go listen to it if you haven't.
Yeah, and if Jeremy, if you're listening, don't get a big head. This is yeah.
So, well, I think that's covers a lot of what I wanted to talk about. And if you got anything else?
No. I mean, it's pretty much it. It's been a long time with these Kemmer dogs, and I've tried a lot of other things, but I keep coming back to them. They're not for everybody. I like them, and really don't care if anybody else does, because I'm the one that feeds them.
Exactly.
But I really do appreciate you, thinking about me and asking me to do this. It means a lot.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time to do it. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram at Tree Talking Media. And until next time, keep them talking in the timber.